Put your hand up if you are fed up of scam phone calls, text messages and emails. Apparently, because I didn't press 1 on my mobile phone a few weeks ago, I'm going to be arrested immediately. Still waiting. I tried to say to the scammer, well, to save you the bother of sending a police officer round to my home, I'll ask my neighbour, who is a serving police officer, to call in on her way to work and arrest me. I didn't get the chance to finish that sentence. I can't see how many people have put your hand up, but I fear it's many of us. Seriously, folks, be careful. These scammers are very convincing. They are an example of fake people, liars, scaremongerings, and downright criminals. And towards the end of last year, when Donald Trump knew that his presidency in the United States was over, he failed to concede. He tried to claim votes were fraudulently cast and accused some media channels of spreading fake news. Anyone who has been personally involved in a news story will realise that journalists sometimes don't tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They edit stories in order to sensationalise, to either sell newspapers or to get viewer numbers up. Last week, on Easter Day, Ron referred to the mystery of the resurrection, not the fact of the resurrection, but what are the facts? He went on to say, not even the gospel writers can agree on an accurate factual account of what happened that first Easter day. So no different today, as in Jesus' time, different news channels and newspapers have a different slant on the facts. Going forward to this week's Gospel reading, we hear the story of Thomas. The reading is a familiar one. We don't know why he wasn't with the disciples when Jesus first appeared, but we do know that all he wanted was to see evidence for himself. A simple request. He wanted the true facts. It would have been easy for him to go along with his friends who had physically seen the risen Christ, the mob culture approach, but he didn't. He needed to test the truth for himself. I think doubt is essential when something really matters. Thomas's doubting mattered. Because if our Easter faith really matters, doubt is essential. Each time we have doubts, we must explore, examine, question, then re-explore, re-examine, and question again. Each time we do this, from my experience, our faith deepens. Today, in the age of social media, fake news, etc., what helps us believe something is true? Is it personal experience, physical evidence, or accounts from trusted friends and family? I'm not going to give you the answer to that question. That is for you to work out for yourself. Early Christians experienced a painful relationship with their local synagogue leaders. Their truth, that Christ had risen from the dead, was being contested by truth early Christians adhered to, was disqualified by the fact that Jesus' shameful crucifixion, any evidence that Jesus was alive, starts with the ramblings of a mere woman, which wasn't enough evidence to rescind the Jewish leaders' conclusion that Jesus was dead. The truth was being tested, and Thomas's experience, who is one of the inner circle of Jesus' followers, tells us not all believers believed without question or accepted blindly without evidence, and neither should we. He wanted to know for himself, just as we do, if he could really trust what the rest of the disciples now believed and saw. Thomas comes to a moment of belief by processing, testing, discussing, and being honest about his own uncertainties. Then his willingness to reconsider his conclusions in the light of new evidence and experience. So much so that despite in insisting that he see and touch the scars of Jesus' body in order to believe, his new evidence, knowledge, and experience, he just believed. In that moment of belief, new beginnings start. That new beginning is the one that touches on the sacrifice that Jesus made for every single one of us. In our second reading from 1 John chapter 1, we hear of the word of life existed from the very beginning. The very beginning of what? The Old Testament starts with the words, "In the beginning." For Thomas, the beginning was for him when he truly believed and doubted no more. We too can experience new beginnings when we acknowledge the doubts we have, work through them, and have fellowship with God. And once we have fellowship with God, this translates into fellowship with each other. This letter of 1 John was written about a generation after Christianity began, a time when there was declining commitment and many believers were failing to stand up for Jesus and confronting the world's standards instead. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? A world of false teachings, fake news, etc. John wrote this letter to put believers back on track to start again and show the difference between light and darkness. In other words, what was true and what was false. John wanted to record this reading because he was an eyewitness of Jesus' life when eyewitnesses were becoming fewer. That Jesus brings light and life to all who accept that challenge. And it is a challenge. Easter time is a time for new beginnings. We see new life in the fields with newborn lambs, and in our parks, gardens and hedgerows, daffodils are blooming and trees are starting to bud. New beginning and hopes surround us, especially as we are about to see some lockdown restrictions lifted. An opportunity to return to a new normal. Note I said new normal, not the old pre-pandemic normal. That is gone. And those of us who have lost loved ones, including myself, during this last year, know all too well that the old normal is gone. We must start a new normal, a new beginning. We are all hopeful for seeing our friends and family again and to be able to worship together in fellowship. In the meantime, work through your doubts, have faith, and new beginnings will happen. Amen.